Welcome back into the Talmud Shorts teaching series. Today I want to talk to you about temptation. Temptation. Everybody experiences temptation. But when I ask many people what is temptation, they're incapable of explaining to me what temptation is. But they can tell me what the impact of temptation has been in their lives and the effect of temptation has been in their lives. But if you can't identify the cause, how do you come to a remedy? How do you come to the cure? So I want to talk to you about what is temptation. So I don't want to get into the impact of it. I want to talk about what it is first. In our next section, we'll talk about struggling with temptation. But right now, I want to talk about what is temptation. Let me draw your attention to the book of Matthew. In the book of Matthew in chapter 26, please open your Bibles with me. In Matthew chapter 26, look what he says in verse 41. Verse 41. Look at what he says. He says, "Keep watching and praying that you may not enter into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." Look, everybody experiences temptation. This is one of those universal truths. Okay? Everybody experiences temptation. It's a universal truth. So everybody has an experience with it. Now, no matter how spiritual you are, right, or how long you follow Christ, you've been tempted. I know I have been tempted multiple times, and I probably will continue to be tempted multiple times. So I understand that. I can relate that with you right now. Sometimes this experience that we call temptation seems like a faint whisper, or another times it's this unbearable, a shout in your mind. It's just screaming at you out loud, okay? So regardless of how it sounds, I'm talking about temptation. You know just what temptation feels like. You know what it feels like. But if someone asks you, could you define the term, this is where I have discovered a lot of people struggle to even define what it is. So that's what I was talking about. Look, so let's just provide a simple definition. Okay? Now, if you're a believer, right, you're going to understand what I'm talking about. If you're not a believer, okay, then you don't understand the definition, but you understand what it feels like. So I want to look at this very carefully. Simply put it, temptation is the enticement to take a God-given desire beyond God-given boundaries. Let me repeat that. Temptation is simply an enticement to take a God-given desire beyond God-given boundaries. Did you hear what I just said? That this is crucial. This is very important because everybody understands the feeling of temptation. But what is it? And so you take people deal with guilt and all kinds of issues. Okay, they go through these mental, emotional gymnastics because they haven't really captured what it is. So temptation is something that A, already exists, and B, Satan, the devil, whatever you want to call him, okay, is going to pervert it. So you have to understand that something has to exist before temptation can take place. So what is it that exists? What we have is a God-given desire that's going to be taken to beyond God-given boundaries. Now, many people just reject this idea, right? Refusing to believe that guilt instilling allurements, okay, enticements could ever be remotely related to the Lord. Because you see, they haven't understood it. They haven't really understood this, okay? But think about it. In what ways, so I would ask you a question, in what ways are you being tempted? What ways are you most often tempted? Now, all of us have a proclivity for something because that's just in our fallen nature. Now, so is it in possessions that you have to possess things? Okay? Is it in emotional intimacy? Is it physical intimacy? Is it sexual intimacy? Okay? Is it companionship? Okay? Is it food? Is it drink? You know, people deal with all kinds of different issues. Now, these are all, first of all, these are all real things. They're all real things. Not only Not only are these God created, okay, but God also uses these to bless us, His people. So all these things, actually exist, and God uses them to bless us, whatever those issues might be. But the issue is that temptation is that when we take God-given desires beyond God-given boundaries. That's the key to understanding temptation. So the problem comes when we, who still carry around this, how can I put it, this old programming up here in our head, this old programming of our flesh, okay, of our flesh nature. And then we take those drives, remember those God-given drives, okay, or those God-given desires, and we take those God-given desires, those drives, okay, beyond the healthy limits that God has set for our lives, okay. So and everybody, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So let me give you a clear example. God created sex for what? Well, first of all, He created for procreation, right? We know that, right? But He also created for our enjoyment. So He created sex for our enjoyment, but our enjoyment is within the marriage relationship. It's within the marriage relationship. So, however, when this divinely approved desire, which is sex in marriage, is corrupted by physical intimacy outside of marriage, then what the Creator has designed for His purposes, okay, becomes a source of guilt and shame for all of us. Okay? That is not what God intended. So what I want you to understand, that all I'm trying to do here is to define what is actually temptation. What it actually is. It's a God-given desire that's going to be taken out of God-given boundaries. So if you can't identify what temptation is, then you can't really, you have no structure to bring that back within the boundaries of God. Look, one of the enemy's top strategies, Satan, the devil, whatever you want to call him, okay, is to distort God-given drive for his own vile purposes. That's what temptation is. See, the enemy, what he wants to do is he wants to take these God-given desires, this drive that all of us have inside of us, okay? And he wants to use it for his own vile purposes. That's what he wants to do. So you can come short, you can short circuit this, such as an attack as it comes to you. You have to remind yourself, first of all, where this urge, whatever this desire is, okay, came from in the first place. And then you have to ask God, okay,